back to College Hill Farm. Well, today we're doing another In the Kitchen episode. Of course, you saw the title. This is Shuck Beans. We're going to do them in an Instapot. We got a new Instapot, and we have cooked Shuck Beans a couple times in it now, so I feel confident in doing a video, show you the right way to do it. My mother cooked Shuck Beans in a pressure cooker. My grandmother cooked Shuck Beans in an open pot on the stove 6 or 7 or 8 hours. But the Instapot makes it very quick and easy to cook your Shuck Beans and easy to clean up. So what we're going to do an Instapot Shuck Beans. Now, what I've got here, I've got half a quart of Shuck Beans in this jar and a quart jar. This is just a quart mason jar. And we'd used half of them for another time. Then over here, don't throw your jars away. This is an old spaghetti sauce jar. No reason you can't reuse those. I even seal them down. You heard it pop? So basically, that is a quart and a half of Shuck Beans. I put them here in an ice cream bowl. Again, don't throw everything away. There's useful stuff out there. Now, when these were put up, they were put up and not washed. Because of that, now I have to wash them. Okay, so we'll start off with washing these. You don't need me to show you that on the video. You put water in them, stir it around, drain it off. I use one of these strainers so I can just put it on the edge of the bowl and strain the water off. And I'll rinse these 3 or 4 times, okay, to get any stuff off. Now when we pick these, we wait till it's really dry and there's not all that dirt on them. You know, you don't want to pick these after a rain and splash dirt and stuff up on them. You want to pick them when the ground is really dry, and then when you dehydrate these, you don't have to wet them, because if you wet them before you dehydrate them, a lot of times they'll sour in the dehydrator and it gives an odd taste to the beans. So you want to pick them on a dry day when they're not really dirty, and then go from there. So that's what we did, but these haven't been washed, so I'm going to go over here and wash them, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, they have been totally washed, and now they're wet, but they're still hard, okay? So these are going to have to sit and soak. After I get done, you can see here that I've run water up to 2/3 of this ice cream, this gallon ice cream bowl. I'll set these over on the counter and let them soak for about 4 hours. Now I've put warm water in here. We always, in past, have taken them, put them in, washed them, put them in water, and then put them in the refrigerator overnight. You can do that too. That's not a big deal, but we have found that it takes 3 or 4 hours worth of soaking in warm water, and they do just as good, and maybe the end result's a little better. Because we're going to cook all the water out of them in our Instapot. So I'll set these aside in about 4 hours. It's about 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30. 3:30 they'll be ready to pour this water off, get them in the Instapot, put some water, and get the Instapot going to have these ready by, say, 5 o'clock, 5:30 for dinner. So I'm going to go ahead and set these over here to the side. Just set them off there on the stove. They'll be just fine. And then I want to make sure that these go in the wash and get reused. Stop throwing everything away. Okay, it's time to get our stuff in our Instapot. Our beans are soaked. Here they are. They've been soaking for 5 hours, almost 5.5. So they're ready to go in the pot, but I want to take this water that's on them and get it off there. So I'm just going to take and take my strainer here. Pour that water off. Now you can see right here, these beans have softened up and they're ready to, see there's one that didn't get broke up good. It's alright, they'll cut up real good when we go to eat them. So now what I want to do is I want to put in just enough water to come up to where the top of the beans are. Because if you put in too much water, you wind up having to boil them a lot afterwards. So we'll start off and add just enough water to cover them but not float them. Okay, see that? There's just enough water there. Let me turn you down where you can see. There's just enough water there to cover them without floating them. Okay, now we want to get our Instant Pot over here and get it plugged in. Putting a plug in on your island is one of the best things you can ever do for yourself. So start off, we'll get all of these right in that Instant Pot. Okay, and it's going to leave some stuff in the pan in here, but I'm not going to worry about that. Now look at it and assess if I've got enough water. Let me show you what it looks like over here. Okay, I look at that and I have to push down to get to the water, so I'm going to add a little more water. Okay, now that's enough water to have everything covered. The next step is some salt. Well, this is a natural product, okay? So I'm going to give it a liberal dusting of salt. Okay, so there's the salt. That's probably, I don't know, a tablespoon maybe of salt that I put in there. Maybe it's 2 teaspoons, but you can salt it a little bit and then salt it when we get to this next step after this, and it'll work too. So, but we want to add a little oil to that. Now, normally, I would add lard. Or bacon grease. Well, I don't have either one of them. So all I'm going to do is just put cheap old vegetable oil on them. And probably that's enough right there. Just a glug of vegetable oil. Now let's get this lid on. There we go. Had it totally backwards. What we want to do is we want this to pressure cook. So we're going to select pressure cook, 45 minutes. Of course, the last thing I cooked in here was shuck beans, 45 minutes. And going to let it do that. And of course, we want the pressure level to be on high. You can adjust the level if you want to, but we're going to keep it on high. So now this is going to take probably 55 to 60 minutes. It'll probably take 15 or 20 minutes to come up and start pressurizing. Then it'll start timing that 45 minutes. So when that gets done, I'll come back to you and show what to do next. Okay, it has done its thing, and it's ready to vent. It's done 45 minutes. It took it an hour and 15 minutes, so it took it a half hour to come up to pressure, and then it took it 45 minutes to do its thing. It's not like a pressure cooker. I'm so used to pressure cookers and you hear the jiggler going. But now this is setting, the way it's setting right over my pot rack, and I don't want to vent it right on top of the pot rack, so I'm going to just turn it around here. Take it to the edge. There we go. Now, when that completely vents, I'll come back to you. Okay, the little lock fell. This right here was the lock. It falls down when it's totally vented. So we can open the cooker. And let's look at what we've got here. Set this over to the side. Turn this around here. Now, you'll notice that most of the water is still there. Okay? Most of the water is still there. So we've got to boil that off. There. Most of the water is still there. We've got to boil that water off because you don't want it wet like that. Some people would go ahead and use it just like that, but that's not me. That's not the way we've done it in my family, so we want that water gone. So what do? We tell this, we set it on saute. We cancel everything off so that it's off. Then we tell it saute. And I'm going to tell it "30 minutes. And then it'll start here in just a second, and it'll start to saute. And I'm going to set this back on, but I'm going to set it where it's not on. Okay, I want the water to come out. Here's my thing. I've set it so like this, so that it is keeping the heat in, but the steam can come out right here. So let that saute, and I'll come back to you. Okay, most of the water has cooked off. It still has some water. Let me put you over there where you can see. Okay, there is still some water in there, but it's not a lot, and it's down enough. It took about an hour on saute to get to this level, but it's an hour well spent. The good thing about the Instapot is you set a time and then you can walk away. The saute function doesn't get hot enough to really burn stuff much, so you don't have to worry too much as long as you've got some oil in there about the beans burning on the bottom. And of course it took about an hour and 20 minutes to pressure cook, and then or about an hour and 15 minutes, and then it took about an hour to saute out the water. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell this to cancel and tell it to keep warm. Crystal will be home probably in about an hour, but what I'm going to do is, let's see how these came out. Alright, there's what they look like. Alright, there's what they look like. Now, at this point, there's still a little water in there, so we could add some salt if we wanted to. But I don't think it'll need any. But it might. These are really hot. Now, the other alternate names for these are leather britches, Shuck Beans, Shucky Beans. There's a whole lot of different things. These are what ever since I was a kid, it's been my favorite bean to do. Oh, those are perfect, right on point. But while I was waiting, on these to cook, I made some good old-fashioned cornbread fritters. Can't hardly have shuck beans without cornbread. Oh, my goodness. That is as good as it gets in Appalachian cuisine. Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homesteading, prepping, self-sustainability stuff every week, sometimes one, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead. Now, if you hit the little bell when you come to the channel, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday. Now, with that being said, it's time for me to finish this little dab of shuck beans. Wait on Crystal. I made mashed potatoes, shuck beans, and I'll saute some chicken just before she gets home. Okay?